Good evening, my dear, and welcome. Snuggle up under your warm blankets and let all the worries of the day drift far away. Outside, a gentle rain is falling, each raindrop tapping softly against the window pane like a calming lullaby. In the soft glow of lamplight, we are safe and warm here together. Tonight, I will tell you a bedtime story, a tale as old as time, the story of Beauty and the Beast. Listen now in comfort as this gentle story unfolds, and allow yourself to relax and drift into a peaceful sleep. Belle and her father. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village, there lived a young woman named Belle and her father, a kindly old inventor. Their cottage was small but very cozy, with a stone fireplace that always held a warm, gentle fire on cool evenings. On drizzly afternoons, Belle loved to curl up by the window with a book, listening to the soft patter of rain on the roof as she read stories of far-off places and magical adventures. She was a beautiful girl with a tender heart and a bright mind, and everyone who met Belle admired her kindness. Belle's father adored her dearly. He had once been a merchant, and though they were not rich in gold or goods, they felt rich in love and contentment. Each morning, Belle would brew a pot of tea, filling their cottage with the gentle aroma of herbs, and they would sit together by the hearth, wrapped in soft quilts, planning their day. The village around them was peaceful, full of friendly neighbors and simple pleasures. Even when skies were gray and rain drizzled down, Belle found beauty in her world, in the shimmering wet cobblestones outside and the comforting glow of candles inside their home. One late autumn day, Belle's father received word that one of his long-lost merchant ships might have been found in a distant port. Hope sparkled in his eyes at the chance to reclaim a bit of his fortune and provide a better life for Belle. He decided to journey to the city to see if the news was true. Belle helped her father prepare for the trip. She packed him some fresh bread and cheese and made sure he wore a thick woolen cloak to keep him warm and dry. As he gathered his walking stick and set his hat upon his head at the cottage door, Belle's father paused and turned to her. He gently asked if there was any special gift she would like him to bring back from his travels. Belle shook her head at first, wanting nothing more than her father's safe return. But when he insisted, wishing to bring her a token of his love, Belle shyly replied, "Father, I would like just one lovely rose picked by your own hand." It was a simple request. Roses were her favorite flower and a symbol of love, but none grew in their garden as winter neared. Her father smiled and nodded. "I promise to find you the most beautiful rose I can," he vowed softly. Soon it was time to depart. Belle walked with her father outside to his small horse-drawn cart. A light misty rain was falling, and tiny droplets clung to Belle's dark hair and her wool shawl. She pulled the shawl tighter around her shoulders as her father climbed up onto the cart's wooden seat. Belle gently pressed a kiss to his weathered cheek. "Come back safely," she whispered, trying to smile bravely. Her father cupped her hand in his for a moment and looked into her eyes lovingly. "I will, my dear," he promised in his warm, gentle voice. With a final wave, he flicked the reins and set off down the road, the cart rattling softly into the mist. Belle stood at the gate and watched, until the cart disappeared into the gray morning light. Though she already missed him, she remained hopeful and kept herself busy tidying the cottage and caring for their little home. That evening, Belle lit a candle in the window to guide her father back home, its tiny flame a beacon of hope shining out into the gentle night. Each night thereafter, she repeated this ritual, listening to the soothing patter of rain on the roof and whispering a prayer for her father's safe return. The Enchanted Castle. Belle's father set out on his journey, hoping to reclaim his lost fortune. But alas, his trip proved fruitless, and on the long road home, a sudden storm swept over the countryside. Night fell, and rain pelted down in cold sheets, drenching Belle's poor father as he guided his horse and cart slowly through a dense, unfamiliar forest. The wind howled through the trees, and the path grew muddy and hard to follow. Shivering beneath his cloak and aching with fatigue, he feared he might not find his way home. Yet he pressed on, thinking of Belle safe at home and the promise of the rose he still hoped to fulfill. At last, through the misty darkness and rain, Belle's father spotted a warm glow between the trees. Following the light, he came upon a grand, mysterious castle standing silent in the woods. Golden light twinkled from the windows, beckoning him inside. Desperate for shelter, the old man pushed open the heavy wrought iron gate and approached the castle doors. To his surprise, the great wooden doors creaked open as if by an unseen hand, inviting him out of the storm. "Hello?" he called softly, stepping into a vast entry hall. His voice echoed, but no one answered. Inside, the castle was dimly lit by flickering candles and wall sconces, casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. Though he saw no one, the castle did not feel dangerous or unwelcoming. In fact, the air was warm and carried the comforting scent of wood smoke and something sweet, perhaps freshly baked bread. Belle's father ventured further in, dripping rainwater on the polished marble floor. In the next room, he found a great fireplace crackling with a cozy fire and a table laid out with a simple meal, a steaming bowl of soup, a platter of fresh bread, and a pot of tea that was still hot. The poor man was astonished by such hospitality, but his hunger and exhaustion got the better of him. He sat by the fire, peeled off his soaked cloak, and warmed his trembling hands. He called out gentle thanks to his invisible host, whoever it might be, then gratefully sipped the hot tea. The fragrant herbal brew and the warmth of the flames eased the chill in his bones. He ate the nourishing soup and bread, feeling his strength return. Still, no host appeared, but he did find a clean, dry robe left for him by the hearth and a soft armchair drawn up close to the fire. Overwhelmed by his journey, Belle's father sank into an armchair by the fire and drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep. At dawn, he awoke to find his clothes dry and a simple breakfast of hot porridge and tea laid out for him by unseen hands. Although he saw no one, the castle had clearly cared for him. Grateful and eager to return home, Belle's father made ready to depart. Stepping out to the courtyard, he found his horse safe and the morning air cool and fresh after the storm. As he prepared to leave, his eyes fell upon a rose bush in the castle garden. blooming with vibrant red roses even in the chill of late autumn. Remembering Belle's request, he leaned over and picked a single perfect rose for her. No sooner had the stem snapped than a deep, fearsome growl echoed across the courtyard. Belle's father spun around, and before him stood the master of the castle, the beast. He was taller than any ordinary man, with broad shoulders and a looming form covered in thick dark fur. He had the face of a mighty creature, with the mane of a lion and horns like a great stag. In the pale morning light, the old man could see the beast's eyes fixed on him, and he trembled at the sight, dropping the rose in fright. The beast's eyes blazed with anger as he stepped forward. "I gave you shelter and warmth, and you steal from me in return?" he growled, his voice low and rumbling. He came closer, towering over the trembling man. Belle's father fell to his knees on the wet grass and bowed his head. "Forgive me, sir," he pleaded desperately. "My intention was not to steal out of greed. This rose is for my daughter Belle. She's a good girl who wanted only this one simple gift." The beast paused upon hearing this and slowly bent to pick up the fallen rose. He turned the delicate flower between his clawed fingers. "Your daughter?" he muttered in a tone that almost sounded gentle, as if the idea of such love touched something in him. But then his furry face hardened again, and he spoke more firmly. "I will spare your life," the beast declared, "but on one condition. You must send your daughter to live here in the castle in your place." Belle's father looked up at the beast in alarm. The beast loomed closer, but his voice grew soft. "I swear no harm will come to her, but she must stay here with me. If you refuse, you will not go free." Tears mingled with raindrops on the poor man's face as he nodded shakily, agreeing to the terrible bargain. He would do anything to save his life and see Belle again, even if it meant sending her into the beast's care. His heart ached at the thought of bringing such news to his beloved daughter. The beast stepped back and pointed a great paw toward the forest path. "Go. Remember your promise," the beast said, in a low voice that echoed with loneliness through the quiet courtyard. Belle's father hurried from the castle at once, climbing into his cart and urging his horse forward. He clutched the red rose to his chest as the cool morning air rushed past him. With a heavy heart, he made his way home as fast as the horse could trot. Strangely, the journey back felt quicker than before, as if the forest itself cleared the way for him, eager to see him safely home to Belle. It was nightfall by the time he reached his cottage. A gentle rain was falling once more, and Belle had placed a lantern in the window, its light shining out to guide him home. When he stumbled through the cottage door at last, Belle gasped in relief and rushed to embrace him. But she soon saw the sorrow in her father's eyes and noticed the single red rose he held in his trembling hand. They sat together by the crackling fire, wrapped in warm blankets, and in halting words he told Belle everything: the storm, the mysterious castle that sheltered him, and the dreadful promise he had made to the beast. Belle listened quietly to her father's story, her face calm, though her heart was pounding. She understood at once what she must do. As soon as her father finished speaking, Belle gently clasped his hands in hers and gave him a reassuring smile. "Father, she said softly. "You should not have to suffer because of this. I will go to the beast in your place. I will stay at the castle so that you may live free and safe." Her father wept and begged her not to go, but Belle softly shushed his protests. She squeezed his hands and wiped away his tears with a gentle touch. Though fear fluttered in her own chest, Belle felt a calm resolve steadying her. She remembered that the beast, fearsome as he was, had shown mercy by letting her father go unharmed, and Belle believed with all her heart in keeping promises and sacrificing for those she loved. "Everything will be all right, Papa," she whispered, using the sweet name she had called him since childhood. Outside, the rain pattered soothingly on the roof, as if echoing her resolve. "At first light, I will go to the castle and stay there just as I promised," Belle said quietly, resting her head against her father's shoulder as the two of them watched the soft glow of the fire late into the night. Belle's new home at the castle. True to her word, Belle rose at dawn and prepared to journey to the beast's castle. Her father insisted on accompanying her at least part of the way, unable to bear the thought of his daughter traveling alone into the woods. They packed a small wooden cart with the few things Belle wished to bring. A couple of her favorite books, a simple blue cloak for warmth, and the red rose her father had given her. Belle handled the rose with great care, wrapping its stem in a damp cloth to keep it fresh. As the sun peered over the horizon through lingering morning mist, father and daughter set off, hearts heavy but resolved. The journey to the castle was quiet. A gentle mist hung in the air, and dewdrops sparkled on the leaves, remnants of the night's rain. Belle sat close to her father on the cart's bench, one hand resting on his arm for comfort, the other cradling the red rose in her lap. Neither spoke much. They simply listened to the steady clip-clop of the horses' hooves and the soft hush of the world around them. Belle gazed at the passing woods, trying to calm the flutter of nerves in her belly by focusing on the tranquil beauty around her. Shafts of pale sunlight broke through the forest canopy here and there, and the cool air smelled of wet earth and pine. By midday, dark clouds had begun to gather again, and a light rain was falling as Belle and her father arrived at the gates of the mysterious castle. Belle recognized the grand wrought iron gate from her father's story. It stood open, as if awaiting her arrival. Beyond lay the expansive gardens and the stone facade of the castle itself, its tall windows reflecting the silver-gray sky. A few lanterns were lit even in daytime, glowing warmly and beckoning them inside. Belle felt her heart quicken, but she took a deep breath and gave her father's hand a gentle squeeze for courage. He looked at her with teary eyes, and she mustered a reassuring smile for him. They walked through the gate and into the cobblestone courtyard with the horse trailing behind. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the only sounds were the drip of water from the eaves and the flutter of Belle's cloak as a soft breeze stirred. Belle's father called out uncertainly, announcing their presence. Moments later, the immense wooden doors of the castle swung open. There, in the shadow of the doorway, stood the beast. Belle felt a jolt of fear at the first sight of the towering fur-covered figure. He was exactly as her father had described, imposing and strange, with horn-like antlers and a solemn, fanged face. Yet, as the beast stepped forward into the gray light, Belle noticed he moved carefully, almost gently, He even bowed his head slightly in greeting, which gave Belle the tiniest bit of courage. "You must be Belle," the beast said in a low, rumbling voice that was somehow polite and soft, despite its depth. Belle managed a timid curtsy. "Thank you for allowing my father to return home," she replied quietly, her voice respectful and calm, despite the trembling she felt inside. The beast's dark eyes flickered toward Belle's father, who hovered protectively at her side. For a moment, the beast said nothing. Rainwater dripped off the brim of Belle's father's hat as he mustered the courage to speak. "Please, treat her well," he implored the beast in a trembling voice. The beast gave a solemn nod. "Your daughter will be cared for," he replied quietly. Then the beast extended one large clawed hand, holding the very rose Belle had brought with her. Amazingly, the delicate bloom was still unharmed in his fierce grasp. Belle was startled by the gentle gesture. She carefully took the rose, her fingers brushing against the beast's paw for an instant. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the flower to her chest. Belle's father witnessed this small exchange and felt a touch of relief mingle with his sadness. He pulled Belle into a warm, tight embrace, holding her close under her cloak. Neither of them wanted to say goodbye, but Belle remained brave and steady for his sake. "Go home now, Papa," she whispered gently. "I will be all right." Her father wiped a tear from his eye and nodded. He kissed her forehead tenderly, then turned to climb back into the cart. Belle watched, trying to hold back her own tears as the horse slowly trotted out through the gates. Her father looked back over his shoulder, and Belle gave him a final wave and a brave smile. Soon he disappeared into the misty rain beyond the castle grounds. Belle was now alone with the beast, standing in the vast courtyard as the drizzle dampened the flagstones around them. She felt very small and a little afraid, but she lifted her chin and met the beast's gaze as steadily as she could. "Come inside, Belle," the beast said gently. He turned and led her through the open doors into the castle. Belle followed, leaving the soft daylight behind as the doors closed with a deep thud. The entrance hall was just as Belle's father had described, grand and softly lit by rows of flickering candles. Belle's boots echoed on the polished marble floor as she gazed at the twin curving staircases and high ceiling, trying not to let her nerves show. The warmth from several fireplaces had already begun to chase away the chill of the rainy day. "I will show you to your room," said the beast, keeping a respectful distance as he walked beside Belle. They ascended a grand staircase, the beast's heavy footsteps echoing in the vast space. Belle stepped softly at his side, still cradling the red rose gently in her hands. She stole a few curious glances at the beast when he wasn't looking. He seemed lost in thought, his gaze focused ahead, and she wondered what he might be feeling. Before long, they reached a wooden door at the end of a candlelit corridor. The beast pushed it open to reveal a beautiful bedchamber prepared for her. Belle stepped inside and gasped softly. The room was lovely and inviting, far more luxurious than her simple cottage, yet somehow just as cozy. A fire danced in a marble hearth, filling the air with a gentle warmth. Against one wall stood a grand four-poster bed, draped in soft velvets and topped with plush pillows and a thick quilt that looked incredibly comfortable. On a little table near the bed, a vase of water stood waiting for her rose. Belle realized with a swell of emotion that someone had prepared all of this especially for her arrival. Tears pricked at Belle's eyes, not from sorrow, but from being deeply touched by such thoughtfulness. She turned to the beast, who lingered uncertainly by the door as if awaiting her reaction. "It's beautiful," Belle said sincerely. "Thank you." The beast's shoulders loosened with relief. "I am glad you like it," he replied softly. He then added awkwardly, "This is your home now, so please feel at ease. You may go anywhere in the castle, and if you need anything, just ask." Belle was again surprised. She had expected to be treated as a prisoner, but instead the beast was granting her freedom within his enchanted home. As the evening drew near, the beast gently informed Belle that dinner would be served soon in the dining hall. He excused himself with a polite nod, allowing her time to settle in. Belle unpacked her few belongings, placing her 2 well-loved books on a small shelf near a cushioned window seat. She changed into a fresh dress that had been laid out for her, a comfortable gown of soft blue wool that, to her surprise, fit perfectly. Before leaving her room, Belle carefully placed her cherished red rose into the vase by the bed. The flower's crimson petals caught the firelight, a reminder of her father's love and the promise that had brought her here. When Belle came to the dining hall that night, she found the beast already seated at one end of a long table set with flickering candles and fine porcelain. He stood politely as she entered. They sat down near each other at the head of the table so they could speak without raising their voices. A grand chandelier cast a warm glow over the hall, and a crackling fire in the fireplace added a comforting glow. Dinner was served as if by magic. Under gleaming silver covers was a hearty vegetable stew, freshly baked bread, and a pot of fragrant herbal tea. The delicious aroma and cozy ambience helped Belle finally relax. For a time, Belle and the beast ate in gentle silence. Belle noticed that although the beast's manners were a bit awkward with the delicate dishes, he was trying hard to be courteous. Sensing her curious gaze, the beast cleared his throat softly and asked if she enjoyed reading. This simple question sparked a warm conversation about books that lit up Belle's face. Pleased by her enthusiasm, the beast shyly promised to show Belle the castle's magnificent library the next day. A suggestion that made her eyes shine with excitement. They lingered over the meal, talking quietly of pleasant things. The beast inquired gently whether her room was comfortable, and Belle assured him it was the loveliest room she'd ever seen. She thanked him once again for his kindness, and he merely shook his head as if it were nothing at all. Outside, a light rain began to patter against the windows, but inside the castle all was warmth and light. Belle realized she felt completely at ease in the beast's company now, her earlier fears forgotten. At last, when they had finished their tea, the beast rose and gave a polite bow. "Good night, Belle," he murmured. "Good night," Belle replied softly. She watched the beast's towering figure retreat into the shadows of the hall, and a small, hopeful smile found its way onto her face. Belle returned to her room, guided by the warm glow of candles that lit themselves as she walked through the corridors. Inside, the fire in the hearth had been tended to, and it cast a soft golden light across the room. Belle changed into a lace-trimmed nightgown that had been laid out for her and sat at the vanity to brush out her long brown hair. The events of the day swirled in her mind. It had been the most frightening and also the most enchanting day she could remember. She thought of her father, safe and warm at home, and she thought of the beast, of the tender way he had said good night, and the loneliness she had seen in his eyes. Belle's heart brimmed with empathy for her gentle, misunderstood host. Belle slipped into the grand four-poster bed and nestled beneath the soft quilt. The mattress was feather-light and so comfortable that she sank into it with a contented sigh. On the nightstand, the red rose in its vase caught her eye, its red petals glowing softly in the firelight. Belle gently touched one of the velvety petals and whispered, "Good night, Papa," hoping that far away in their little cottage, her father could somehow sense that she was safe and thinking of him. As Belle closed her eyes, a gentle rain began to fall outside, each raindrop a soft lullaby against the window pane. Even a distant rumble of thunder sounded soothing and far off, reminding her that she was safe and sheltered within these strong castle walls. Warm and drowsy, Belle felt the last of her worries melt away. She had thought she might lie awake missing home, but instead a peaceful heaviness settled over her limbs. Before she knew it, Belle drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, while the rain continued to fall softly through the night, growing closer. In the days that followed, Belle and the Beast settled into a warm and comforting routine. Each morning, they would share a quiet breakfast by the windows as gentle rain often tapped against the glass outside. By day, Belle explored the castle's wonders with the Beast as her willing companion. He kept his promise and showed her the magnificent library, a sunlit gallery of books that stretched floor to ceiling. Belle's heart swelled at the sight, and soon the two of them could be found there many an afternoon, reading together by the glow of a crackling fireplace. Sometimes Belle would read aloud from her favorite stories while the Beast listened quietly, a content rumble in his chest as he relaxed on a large velvet sofa with a cup of steaming tea cradled in his paws. Other times, the Beast would timidly share a tale or two of his own, and Belle would smile to hear the gentleness and wisdom in his voice. When the weather was fair, they ventured outside into the castle gardens. Winter was just beginning to touch the land, but the gardens remained beautiful in their own way. Evergreen hedges glistening with dew and the last hardy flowers blooming. Belle would walk arm in arm with the Beast along the pebbled paths. She loved to tell him about her childhood in the village, and he would listen intently. In turn, the Beast slowly opened up about his life in the castle. He admitted that he had been lonely for a very long time. Belle's heart ached to hear this, and sometimes, without thinking, she would reach out and gently squeeze his furred hand to comfort him. Whenever she did, the Beast's eyes would shine with gratitude. Though her days in the castle were filled with happiness, Belle eventually began to feel a tug of homesickness. She missed her father dearly and wondered how he was faring. The Beast noticed the distant look on Belle's face one crisp morning as she gazed out a window towards her faraway village. With a kind understanding, he led her to the enchanted mirror that hung in one of the castle's corridors, a magical mirror that could show far-off scenes. In its reflective surface, an image shimmered into view. Belle's father, alone in their cottage, lying in bed with a pallor to his face. He looked ill and weak, calling Belle's name softly in his sleep. Belle gasped, tears springing to her eyes. "He has taken ill. Oh, he needs me," she exclaimed. Though the thought of parting with Belle filled the beast with pain, he knew what he must do. He gently told Belle, "You should go to him. He needs you." Belle turned to the beast, torn. "If I go, I promise I will return," she whispered. Her voice quivered, for she truly did not want to hurt the beast by leaving, nor did she wish to break the newfound friendship, perhaps even love, between them. The beast nodded slowly. Though his heart was breaking at the idea of saying goodbye, he managed to smile for her. "Take our finest horse," he said softly. "Go, help your father. And please come back to me." Belle reached up and cupped the beast's shaggy cheek with her hand, a gesture of affection that made him close his eyes. "You have my word," she assured him tenderly. "I will return as soon as I can." That very hour, the beast prepared a sturdy white horse for Belle to ride. He draped her in a warm traveling cloak and gently helped her into the saddle. Neither Belle nor the beast could stop the tears that gathered in their eyes. "Goodbye for now," Belle said, her voice soft and thick with emotion. The beast bowed his great head. "Goodbye, Belle," he rumbled gently. "Remember, you will always have a home here." Belle bit her lip and nodded. With a final, longing glance at the beast, she urged the horse forward. The beast stood in the courtyard watching her depart into the cool morning mist. The gates opened for Belle, and as she rode away, the beast felt as though the light had gone out of the world. Even as the rain began to fall once more, he remained there in the courtyard long after Belle had vanished from sight, hoping against hope that she would truly come back to him. Love's true form. Belle arrived back in her village just as a light snow began to fall, dusting the cottages in white. Her father wept with joy to see her again and clung to her as if she might disappear. Under Belle's tender care, he began to recover from his fever within a few days. Their cottage was warm and snug once more, with Belle brewing broth and tea for him just as she had before. Yet, as much as Belle loved being home with her father, part of her heart remained at the castle. She missed the beast terribly, his gentle voice, his thoughtful eyes, and the comfort she felt by his side. Sometimes, late at night, she found herself gazing out at the falling rain and whispering to herself, "I hope he is all right. I promised I would return." Belle had intended to stay only a week, but as her father grew stronger, he begged her to remain a little longer, not wanting to let her go again so soon. Belle agreed, extending her visit by a few more days to ensure he was truly well. However, on the 10th night away from the castle, Belle had a frightening dream. She dreamt of the beast lying in the castle's garden in the snow, pale and still, with the enchanted rose she had seen floating beside him, dropping its very last petal. In the dream, Belle heard the beast's voice calling out her name in despair. She awoke with a start, her heart pounding and a sense of dread weighing heavily on her. She knew with sudden clarity that she had stayed away too long. Dawn was still hours away, but Belle knew she could wait no more. She had to return to the castle at once. Without waking her father, Belle hurried to saddle her horse by lantern light. Snow and icy rain were falling as she set out, but she pulled her cloak tight and urged her horse on through the dark forest. Cold wind stung her face, and branches clawed at her cloak, but Belle's only thought was of the beast. "Hold on, I'm coming," she whispered into the night, her breath forming clouds in the icy air. The castle loomed ahead by early morning, its high towers blanketed in snow and frost. The gates opened for Belle of their own accord, and she rushed into the courtyard, jumping down from her horse. The scene that met her eyes pierced her heart. The beast was lying collapsed in the garden by the very rose bush from which her father had plucked a flower so long ago. Snowflakes and cold rain fell around him, and he did not stir at Belle's approach. "Oh, no, please, no," Belle cried, stumbling through the snow to his side. She knelt and gathered the beast's massive head into her lap. His eyes were closed, and for a terrifying moment she thought he might have already passed away. But then she felt a faint breath from his muzzle. "Beast, I'm here," Belle whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. The beast's eyes fluttered open weakly at the sound of her voice. He looked at Belle, scarcely believing she had really returned. "Belle," he breathed, a gentle cloud of warmth in the cold air. His voice was barely a whisper. She saw in his eyes both joy at seeing her and an infinite sadness, as if he knew his time was nearly done. Belle smoothed the wet snow from his fur with her hand, her tears falling onto him. "I'm so sorry I'm late," she said, her voice breaking. "I never should have left you for so long. Please, you must hold on. You have to live." The beast gave a faint, sorrowful smile. "I had hoped to see you one last time," he murmured. Belle's heart clenched. "You will live," she insisted softly. "You will live, and we will be together." She pressed her face to his, not caring about the snow and cold. "I love you," Belle whispered, the words coming as naturally as a breath. At that heartfelt declaration, a single tear fell from the beast's eye. His eyes closed, and for one terrible moment, all was still. Then, all at once, a warm golden light began to glow around the beast's body. Belle gasped and drew back slightly, yet she did not let go of him. The light grew brighter, swirling like gentle sunlight breaking through clouds. Slowly, the beast's form started to rise from the snowy ground, lifting Belle with it. His paws and claws began to shrink and reshape, his fur receding, his shaggy head gently lifted and transformed, the fierce snout softening into the face of a man. Within moments, the beast was gone, and in his place stood a tall young prince with kind eyes, the color of the sky. He was dressed in royal attire that glimmered with the same magical glow. Belle stepped back in astonishment, the golden light fading to a soft shimmer around them. The prince looked at Belle, and though he was now a stranger to her eyes, she gazed into his face and instantly knew the truth. "Beast, is it you?" she asked in wonder. He gave a gentle smile and nodded. "Yes, Belle," he said, in a voice that was no longer a growl, but unmistakably his. "The curse, it's broken. You broke it," he continued, joy and disbelief shining in his expression. Belle realized that her words of love had lifted the enchantment that had long ago turned a proud young prince into the beast. Overcome with happiness, Belle threw her arms around the prince. He laughed softly, a sound like music to her ears, and spun her around once in the snow before holding her close. Belle's heart brimmed with love and relief. As they embraced, the wintry clouds began to part, and golden sunbeams broke through, shining on the two of them. The enchantment that had lain over the castle was gone. Through the clearing sky, Belle could see the castle's stone walls glinting in the fresh sunlight. Not far away, the enchanted rose, now free of its glass dome, bloomed anew with vibrant red petals, restored by the magic of love. Belle and her prince soon went to find her father and bring him to the castle, where he was welcomed with open arms. Not long after, Belle and the prince were married in the castle's rose garden, a celebration filled with joy and new beginnings. In the days that followed, there was much happiness in the once silent halls, but most of all, Belle and the prince simply cherished each other's company, grateful for the miracle that had transformed their lives. And on gentle nights, when raindrops pitter-pattered against the windows, Belle and her prince would sit together by the fireplace, just as Belle and the Beast once did. They would read stories or simply talk late into the night, wrapped in each other's warmth. Often they would fall asleep in those big, cozy armchairs by the fire, hand in hand, while the soft glow of the embers and the hush of the rain kept them company. In the end, the Beast had been right. Belle had found her home in the castle, and he had found love and salvation in her gentle heart. They lived happily ever after, in a world of warmth and light, where love's gentle magic would forever brighten their days and sweetly soothe them to sleep each night. Know that, just like in our story, you are surrounded by love and warmth. All the intense adventures have passed, and now it's time to rest. Belle and her prince are watching the rain under their cozy gazebo. The villagers are all asleep in their cottages. And we are here in this quiet moment, ready to dream. Close your eyes now and drift off to sleep. May your dreams be filled with gentle magic, kind friends, and the comforting knowledge that true love and kindness are always around you. Good night, and sleep well, my dear one.